Hello, everyone, and good evening. So I hope all of you are doing great and preparing really well for your upcoming exam of Kerala HSST PSC, right? So welcome again to this new session. I hope this session also will make you revise really well and give you a bit more confidence, right? So with that being said, let's get started with our session tonight. I hope all of you can see my screen now. Yes, great. Yes, good evening and welcome again to our Kerala 8 SST PSC exam practice session 4. Are you all ready for this session, for some more questions, for some more revision? Yes, great. So without further ado, let's get started with our session, right? Okay, here we go. To whom did T.S. Eliot dedicate the Westland, describing him as il miglior fabbro, or the better craftsman? You all know this. The Westland by T.S. Eliot. It was dedicated to whom? Who was it? Tell me. Correct, correct, very good. Yes, it is Ezra Pound. It is Ezra Pound. The Westland by T.S. Eliot, published in 1922 in the Criteria. Right. Initially, it was published in the magazine The Criteria. And this poem was dedicated to Ezra Pound for his monumental editorial role in condensing the original manuscript by nearly half. And this phrase, il miglior fabbro, comes from Dante's Purgatorio. Right? This phrase, il miglior fabbro, comes from Dante's Purgatorio. All right, got it? Very good. Next. Which ancient text and author provided the epigraph for the Westland? Or you can tell me the epigraph of the Westland has been borrowed from which source? The epigraph of the Westland. The epigraph of the Westland has been borrowed from which source? Tell me. It is Petronius' Satyricon. Petronius' Satyricon. Okay, right? Very good. Next. In which year was Stuart Hall's seminal essay, Encoding and Decoding in Television Discourse, later titled as Encoding Decoding, first published as a stenciled paper by the CCCS, or the Center for Contemporary Cultural Studies? Tell me. Tell me. In which year was it first published as a stenciled paper by the CCCS? Very good, very good. Correct. Yes. Good. Yes. It is 1973. This essay was first formulated and circulated as a CCCS stenciled paper number 7 in 1973. And later it was published in the anthology Culture, Media, Language in 1980. But the first time it was published as a stenciled paper by CCCS in 1973. In 1973. Okay? Right. Next. Which of the following traditional communication models did Stuart Hall's encoding decoding theory primarily critique for its overly linear one-way transmission view? Tell me, which of the following traditional communication models did Stuart Hall's encoding decoding theory primarily critique for its overly linear one-way transmission view? Tell me, which model was critiqued by Hall? It is what? It is the Shannon-Weaver linear model. Hall challenged the traditional linear model of communication, right? And he famously pointed out that communication is not a simple transmission of a transparent message, but it is a complex articulation of discursive practices. And he critiqued the Shannon-Weaver linear model. And he critiqued the Shannon-Weaver linear model in encoding decoding. Clear? Very good. Next. Laura Mulvey, in her essay Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema, identifies two distinct modes of visual pleasure in cinema. What are they? It's a question from Laura Mulvey's essay Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema, which talks about two distinct modes of visual pleasure in cinema. What are these two modes of visual pleasure that Laura Mulvey explores here? Tell me. Very good. It is scopophilia and narcissism. Right. Here in this essay, Laura Mulvey argues that cinema provides visual pleasure through the active passive roles of scopophilia. There is pleasure in looking at the pleasure derived from looking at others as objects. That's what you call a scopophilia. That is the pleasure. Scopophilia means the pleasure you derive by looking at others as objects. And narcissism means identification with the on-screen image. So Laura Mulvey talks about two different types of visual pleasure. One is scopophilia, means the pleasure you derive by looking at others as objects. And here she says how the male gaze sees the female bodies as objects. And also there is narcissism, which means identification with the on-screen image. Identification with the on-screen image. Clear? Very good. Next. Which psychoanalyst theory of the mirror phase does Mulvey utilize to explain the spectator's narcissistic identification with the cinematic image? So just now we talked about narcissism as a mode of visual pleasure here. So whose theory of mirror phase was utilized by Laura Mulvey to illustrate this narcissism? It is obviously Jacques Lacan. Lacan had talked about mirror phase or mirror stage, right? So here Laura Mulvey draws on Lacan's mirror stage to explain how the cinematic spectator identifies with the idealized, more complete on-screen human form. How the audience, they identify themselves with the on-screen images. And it is very similar to the idea of the mirror stage, where the child looks at the mirror, and when that child sees himself or herself at the mirror, the child realizes, okay, that's me, that's myself. So this identification, that is me, that is myself. Okay, right. So we have already started our West Bengal Assistant Professor Interview Workshop. It's going on right now. We already have had one session in this workshop, and the next session will be happening soon. And this is the schedule that we have been following, right? So if you want to join us, you can do so. And you will also get the recorded sessions if you join now. Okay, right. I hope all of you have liked the session as well. Yes, very good. Next. According to Judith Butler, how does the presumption of a binary gender system function within traditional feminist theory? Tell me. It's from Butler's Gender Trouble, right? It's from Butler's Gender Trouble. Yes, correct. Yes. It implicitly relies on the belief that gender mimics or mirrors biological sex. Okay? So Butler, so what is the question here? That according to Butler, how does the presumption of a binary gender system function within the traditional feminist theory? It implicitly relies on the belief that gender mimics or mirrors biological sex. Okay? Right? Very good. Next. Which theorists claim one is not born, but rather becomes a woman, is analyzed and subsequently problematized by Judith Butler in Gender Trouble. And you have the first chapter in your syllabus, right? Tell me. Which theorists claim that one is not born but rather becomes a woman, is analyzed and subsequently problematized by Butler at the very opening of the first chapter of Butler's Gender Trouble. We see this epigraph from Simone de Beauvoir. From Simone de Beauvoir, that one is not born but rather becomes a woman because, as Butler says, this woman, it's an unnatural discursive category which is produced by the social, political, and cultural institutions. Because gender in itself is not a natural category. It's an unnatural discursive category produced by our cultural, political, and social institutions. Right. And this is echoed in this line also, that one is not born, but rather becomes a woman. It's a social construct. So no one is born as a woman. We are born as females. That's our biological sex, female. But woman is more of a social idea. So Simone de Beauvoir said that one is not born, but rather becomes a woman. And this line is used as one of the epigraphs at the very opening of this first chapter of Gender Trouble of Butler. Right? Yes, very good. Next. In postmodernism and popular culture, how does Angela McRobbie primarily view the emergence of postmodernism? Again, a very important essay from cultural studies in your syllabus. So, how does Angela McRobbie primarily view the emergence of postmodernism? As a what? As a space for social change, political transformation, and enfranchisement of marginalized voices. So, Angela McRobbie sees postmodernism as a space for social change, political transformation, and enfranchisement of marginalized voices. Okay, very good. Next. Angela McRobbie argues that postmodernism has allowed which of the following groups to speak from positions of difference and become the new generation of intellectuals? Angela McRobbie argues that postmodernism has allowed which of the following groups to speak from positions of difference and become the new generation of intellectuals? Tell me, who are these people who have been given voices by postmodernism? Yes, correct. Very good. It is ethnic minorities, women, and the working class. Specifically, this engagement of modernism with the working class specifically is very fascinating. How the rights, how the voices, how the cultures, how the lived experiences of the working class have been emphasized, have been prioritized by this movement of postmodernism. So Angela McRobbie has argued that postmodernism is like a platform which allows ethnic minorities, women, and even the working classes to become the new generation of intellectuals and to raise their voices from their positions of difference and from their positions from the margins of the social structure. Clear? Right. Next, according to Adorno, where was the term culture industry first used by him and Horkheimer? So according to Theodor Adorno, where was the term culture industry first used by Adorno and Horkheimer? It is very good. It is in the book Dialectic of Enlightenment. Dialectic of Enlightenment. So at the very opening of the essay, Culture Industry Reconsidered, Adorno clarifies that this term, culture industry, was likely used for the first time in their book, Dialectic of Enlightenment, specifically to replace the term mass culture and exclude the interpretation that mass-produced culture arises spontaneously from the masses. So with that intention, the term culture industry was used and not mass culture. Okay, very good. Next, how does Adorno describe the technical capabilities used within the culture industry in comparison to autonomous art? Again, a very important question on the technical capabilities used within the culture industry. Yes, yes. He says that technique in the culture industry is external to the object, whereas in works of art, it is internal. So Adorno argues that in the culture industry, technique is mechanically applied and is external to the object, serving the machinery of distribution. In contrast, true works of art develop technique organically from within the material and context of the art itself. Okay, got it? Very good, very good. So here B would be the option, right? Great. So that's all from our side for tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed answering these questions. I tried to cover almost, all the essays from cultural studies because it's a very important section from your syllabus. And we will be back again tomorrow at 9:30 with some more questions from your syllabus, right? And if you want, you can join our West Bengal Assistant Professor Interview workshop. Okay, so take care, good night, and we'll see you all again tomorrow. Okay.